What is up, guys? Welcome back to this channel. I'm going to be doing probably the first interior mod that I have done on this car. As you know, I've did quite a bit of stuff to the exterior of the car, body wise and paint wise. Did a lot to the engine bay. Other than just clean up the factory interior, I haven't did anything else in here. And we have a little bit of a surprise today because we are going to be replacing the stock stereo that I'm not really a big fan of. This is like the base model stereo that comes in these cars. They do also have a touchscreen version, which is much nicer than this, and it also has navigation on it, which is pretty neat, and it's a decent option to go to. But if you're like me and you have this setup, it's kind of hard to swap this over to that touchscreen one. It's not just a quick and easy swap. There's a lot more to it. So instead of keeping this, I decided, and I kind of saw a pretty neat thing you can do, is if you have yourself an old iPad mini, this is the perfect placement and a perfect fit for putting in this car, coincidentally. It's the exact size that pretty much goes right in here, and it shouldn't be too much work, hopefully, knock on wood, to get this installed in here and have it working properly. The iPad that I have this is just the iPad mini first generation. Now you can use any iPad mini as long as it's a first generation through a 5th generation. You can't use a 6th because it's going to be too big and it won't fit in the slot since those ones are slightly bigger. This one's just the first gen though. It's pretty old, nobody uses it anymore, so I figured, heck, let's get some use out of it and throw it in the car, make things look a little bit nicer. So to get started with this, what we're going to need to do is we're going to have to take apart this whole entire dash panel piece up here and remove some of this stuff so we can get this out of here. Now, before we do that, what you do need to do is you need to preset all your radio stations that you want in your car. You will still be able to retain your radio stations on your car, but you're not going to be able to change them with the stereo anymore. So you have your steering wheel settings basically on the back side. You have some settings in here that you can still change your radio stations and save the presets and stuff. You'll still be able to use your radio with your saved stations. So we're going to preset all these stations on here that I want to save and do that first before we start tearing anything apart. So let's get started with that. You do not need any of these buttons on here to be able to control your radio. It can all be done by the steering wheel. So the radio is off right now. It just shows the time. That's all we have on here. Radio is completely off. To turn it on, it's going to be the button on the back right side of your steering wheel. It's going to be the center button that kind of bulges out a little bit. If you push that, and you see we have a radio on. And then this is also volume up and down over here. Turn it down, up. And then if you want to change the station, you have your presets over here on the other side. Exact same idea. The middle button has a bulge. This is basically your home center button. This will go to your #1 saved preset. Your presets to save them are all up here. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. #1 I have set for 96.5. If we go change this to anything else, to get it back to that home #1 preset, you just hit this home button over here and it'll go back to 96.5, which is your #1 preset. To scroll through your presets, you're gonna go up or down depending on what way it is you want to go. If you hit up, this will go to #2. So it'll be my next preset, and you can scroll through them with these up and downs. So if we want to save my #3 preset to this, all you do is just click and hold on #3. Hold it, and the car just made an audible beep. So now that's saved in my presets. We'll do the same with the last two, and then we will be set messing around with this. We won't need this stereo anymore to control everything because it's all going to be saved on the car and we can control it by the steering wheel. Now that that's all good, what we can do is we can dive into starting to take this dash piece apart and get our main center unit out of the car, so that way we can install our iPad and figure out how to get this mounted up and everything mocked up in here properly and how we want it. Take this side piece off. It's just those clips. So take a screwdriver, a flathead, get it in here and just pry this out. Then we will remove these two bolts over here. So this one on the top and then this one on the bottom here, and we'll drop down this lower piece and just let this hang. Also another bolt actually on the bottom side underneath here that you'll also need to get to as well, and then you can completely drop this piece down. Back piece is now loose and unclipped. I just looked on both sides. It looks like there is a bolt we will need to take out. It's gonna be this one right here. It's another 7mm. This piece is connected all the way up to that back piece. So in order to get it off, you will need to remove these little pieces here. So this one's gonna be the lower one on the right side. I'll get these out real quick and then we should be able to get this piece out now. Both of those screws are out. You can see this piece is now kind of loose in here. You don't need to remove this fully, but what you do need to do is you need to get access in order to get to this one screw that's right down here on that bottom part. It's going to be that screw right there on the bottom of the screen. We'll get that one out real quick. I'll just kind of maneuver this around so that way I can get to it. That one screw that's down in there is now out. Then we'll just need to take off this top piece right here. And to take this off, there's actually one screw that's holding it in right over here. This is just a Phillips screw. We'll get that out of here. And then the rest of it is just clips all the way across. Once that top piece is now off, it's going to expose all of these screws up top here. These are all 7mm again, or Phillips head. So we're going to go all the way across the top and take off every single one of these screws. And that should be the last thing, the last of the screws that we'll need to remove from this in order to get this whole centerpiece out finally. And it actually looks like there's even one more screw right there in the very back. That's the last one that I'm seeing, and then we can finally get this top piece removed right here. You can see it's already pretty loose and wanting to come out. We'll get that one out, and then we'll get this piece, this top piece out of the way then. Now we have complete access here to this piece. You can see these red trim pieces all go to this main center piece that we're going to be taking out. And we're just going to slowly start to pull on these clips over here and kind of wiggle this back and forth and hopefully get it removed. Last thing we'll have left to do is just take out the stereo right there. Just note, I was being super careful when pulling on this, especially on any of these sides, because I did not want to crack any of this plastic or damage anything. Luckily, pretty good success doing that. Nothing is damaged, and I should be able to put everything back together the same way that it came out, which is perfect. For getting the stereo out, we're going to have 4 screws to take it out, 1 on each corner, 3, and there's the last one right there. And then there's just going to be a bunch of various connections on the back side of it. So I will remove all 4 of these and we'll get these connections off in just a second. I have the stereo out of the car. Now we need to remove basically the front half with the display and all the dials and stuff from this back unit. We'll still keep and retain this whole entire back unit, so that way the car can still have radio, AM, FM, and we can change the stations and stuff like that to our presets. But to remove it, we're going to take out all these screws on the back side. So there's going to be 4 on this side here, and then this side should also have 4 as well. We'll take just a Phillips and get all these taken out and removed. All the screws removed. You can see I have the 4 right here and then 4 more right here. Everything on the back for those screws was removed. Right now we're just trying to take this faceplate, this whole entire black piece, and separate it from this metal piece right here. Looks like there's some tabs on the sides that's holding it in, like right here. But we're just gonna try to pry it off without like damaging anything. I believe these little twisters right here may also need to be removed possibly in order to get it off. But I'm just gonna try to play around with this a little bit. After fighting with this for quite a bit now, I finally figured out how to get this metal piece out of the this metal insert out of this piece here. There's 2 screws that go into this, and I believe these are the locations they came from. I just put it back together real quick to show you. But you need to remove these screws in order to get this piece out of here, otherwise it will not come out. Once you remove these pieces and get them out of here, then this piece, aside from the clips that still are going to hold it on the outside, they're not going to be nearly as difficult to get out because those screws are out, and this piece will finally come out just like so. And this is the piece that we need, so we'll take this, we're going to screw this back onto our metal piece here with our screws that we took out of it, and then we can get on to finally mocking up our iPad. Basically, this is going to be where your iPad is going to be setting and resting right on top of, so it's going to look pretty much just like that. What we're going to do now is we'll take our piece, our insert right here, we'll take this, we're going to flip this over, and this screen opening right here where the iPad's going to be, we're going to have to make some cuts probably here. So we'll see, we're going to test fit the iPad on the backside and just make sure that it's able to fit in here okay first. If we take the iPad and set it in here, it will not quite go in here all the way or set down. It's close. It is very close, and it looks like it's going to fill the space up here very nicely once it does. But what it's hitting on right now are these little vent pieces right here. These are the clips for the vent. It's hitting on this one here and also this one on this side. And what it looks like I need to do is I'm going to have to cut these off and basically take off this arm for both of these vents. I'll probably cut it back right here in order to get that off, so that way we have the clearance to fit this in. There's still other clips that are holding in these vents, so they should stay in place. There's actually a multitude of clips that are holding it in. By cutting this, it's not really going to affect a whole lot. Just make sure to avoid any of these components here with your arms. You don't want to damage anything like that. So we'll take the Dremel tool and just go very slowly with these and cut both of these arms off. And I'm also probably going to grind down some of these like rivet pieces right here, just because they feel like they're a little bit higher than this lip. And I want the iPad to sit flush with this lip, so that way it's right up against it and as close to you as possible, and that way there's no gap in here either. So I'm also going to grind these down. I'll show you how to do that here, and then we'll get this iPad in here. I know I didn't show it on camera like I said I would, but I ended up cutting those arms off and I ground this down a little bit. I also ground down these little pieces right here, got these knocked down a little bit more, did the same thing over here on this side, cut that arm off right there, so we have a lot more clearance now. You can see we can take this iPad and just set it right on here, and no issues now. It goes right into place and it has plenty of room right now, which is what we want, so that's really good. What I'm gonna do now is there's randomly a little piece of foam right here, and this was just here already, but I'm gonna kind of just follow along with that. I have a strip of foam here. This is just like the 1mm or 2mm thick you can get at the craft store, and I'm gonna put another piece right here and then also do the same thing, 2 pieces on this side, and that's just gonna give the iPad something to rest onto, and it should also level it out to make sure it's setting in here evenly. And I just have some glue. We're just gonna glue it on. So I'll just do a couple of those strips, and then what we can look at doing next is look at drilling our holes out for the wires that we're gonna need to go to this after that. This is how this is going to be sitting in the car right here. So basically you're gonna have 2 options for your iPad to go. And there's a couple of different functions that your iPad is going to have. And I want to make sure that I'm able to use all the functions on this. That being basically the home button right here. So we got the home button right there, and then we have the volume up here. I don't really need access to this function. That's not a big deal. But this power button on the top right where my middle finger is, we will need to have access to that in the case that this dies for whatever reason and we need to turn it back on. I'm gonna need to be able to get to that, and I can't be ripping apart my dash just to be able to do that. I'm gonna have to figure out a way in order to get access to that so I can power it on if need be. The center home button isn't a big deal, but we also do have a couple of different cords we're gonna run to this, and I wanna make sure that I have this oriented the correct way. So basically though, there's two different options for you to put this in here. You can either put it in here like this and have your home button, which is gonna be right here by the camera, be on the top left, right where my thumb is right there. Or we could swap it over to this side, flip it around, and have the home button be all the way down here, which would be on the bottom right corner. And we'd have to get access. Somehow, I'm trying to figure out how to get access, and this is actually setting up pretty good. This is how it's gonna look through these vents to get to that home button, or not the home button, that on and off power switch. I think the best place to do it is actually going to be on this dash vent right up here, because you can actually get like a finger in here or even like a clothespin or something in order to hit that button if I needed to, which is why I think I'm gonna lean to getting that, the on and off button up here, which would make the home switch over here on this side, and we'll have to drill out a hole for that. Two cords you're gonna need is a charge cord. This will work. I just picked this up. It's brand new. Works. It fits this. And then we're also going to need a aux cord. This is for so that way you can actually play your speakers and your music off of your iPad. I got both of these in 6 foot length. I think that should be just about fine. You don't want to go too short. You want to make sure you have enough length to run it, because these wires are going to be ran from the stereo up here, and I'm gonna have to find a way to route both of them. They're gonna be routed, go down here. I'm gonna try to hide it underneath this console, and they're gonna go into the accessory box right over here, and that's where I'm going to have them. I now have a little hole drilled out in this vent here to route my wire for the charge cord, and then I also did put in my other wire too as well for the aux cord. This fits in here actually pretty decently. That's how that's going to be routed. I'll just tuck in the rest of that wire through the back side of the vent, and then if we just kind of set this in here loosely, so this is how it would set in here. This just merely clears this one corner piece right here. That fits into the vent pretty good. It's sitting flush right now, and if we take a look at the screen, it's actually centered up pretty decently right now, so this is not too bad. Next up, what I need to do is find the center button for over here, and we'll drill a hole there so that way we can get that situated so we can hit that center button on here. You can see I just cut out a hole in the dash vent right here. This is for that top center button, so I have something to be able to get to it. Now I'm sure you could take like either a pin or a pick or anything that's really small and stick it in from the vent from the front side in order to hold this button down if I ever needed to get to it. That's why I wanted to put that little access hole there. And then we do have a little button. I'll show you and explain more about that for the center home button. That is now drilled out. So everything on this is pretty much set and good to go. I think what I might do is just kind of tape this in place so that way it doesn't move around on us when we go back to install it. But other than that, as far as this install, this is done for the iPad. We just need to go ahead and reassemble everything back inside of the car and get this piece back hooked up and connected. But we're just gonna tape this in here and get it oriented exactly how we want it first. Backside is all taped up. I just have a couple pieces of duct tape on here to hold it in place. And then if we come over to the front side here, it is decently centered. It is not perfect by the looks of it, but it is not too bad. So we're gonna throw this in the car and get all these wires kind of set up the way that we want them. This stereo piece back in here, everything is hooked up and connected. So we are all set there. We have the whole centerpiece here with my wires. So we're just gonna route these wires here really quick where we want them. I'm gonna be taking both of them and basically making them both go to this side over here. We are gonna have to pull this piece out right here and then also get this center piece out. But let's just kind of test fit this first just to see what it's going to look like. Once this center piece is out, I disconnected everything here. You'll have 2 screws you'll need to remove. One is right here and the other one is just on the other side, same exact thing. Both 7mm. We'll get those removed and taken out. And then I'll show you where there's 2 more on the back side of this. You'll have to get to it from the rear seats. And then we'll be able to pull this up. For the rear ones, you're gonna move your front seats all the way forward. And then there's this little spot down here on the center console piece. You're just gonna pop this open with a flathead screwdriver, which will give you access to the bolt you need. There's a little 10mm right there. We'll remove that, and then we'll do the same exact thing on the other side. Now we'll take this and lift it up like I said. Pull it up. You may need to pull it back a little bit from the front so it has that clearance, but just kind of wiggle it and it will come up finally. So we just need this up enough to basically route our wires that we have. From there, we're gonna take them, bring them out through here, and then I'll have them come underneath right down in here, and we'll try to funnel these back all the way, probably just basically so we can get them either out here or underneath so we can get them in here. I'll figure that part out, but now that this is up, I'm going to show you guys my setup that I currently have. Both my wires, they come over to this side over here on the passenger side, and then I have them routed all along the bottom side of this with the other wiring that goes underneath this too as well to some of the electrics back here. And I'm going to show you, if we look in the back seat, what we have and what it looks like underneath, because I have it all zip tied up. All right, so you see this is the factory wiring on this, all these black pieces right here that go to the cigarette lighter and the aux thing. I have all of my yellow zip ties from my wiring just connected basically right to it, routing the same exact way. And then up here, this was actually, there was a cover piece on the back side of this. I just took that off. Looks like this right here. I took it off and ended up drilling out a hole right here on the very bottom left side, routed both my wires through there. So basically you're almost essentially not going to see any of this wiring whatsoever inside of the car. It's not going to be messy. This is super clean the way that I did this. Now with the wiring all completed pretty much, what we can do is test out the iPad, make sure that it functions properly, and we can actually get music on it, play music on both the iPad and also get the radio. We want to make sure that we still do have the radio and that's working before I put everything back together. So let's give this a try here and see what happens. We're all hooked up in here, both the USB charge and the audio cable is good. So we turn this on. It looks like it did turn on because it's charging. So we do have power to this. Now I will need to get this home button figured out on here. So for the time being, we're just gonna have to use something to hit our actual home button and turn this on. But we'll slide it and we will go to our audio on here. We'll go to music, and that way we can see if we could actually play anything or not. Looks like right now we're playing. Let's try to turn the volume up. Still nothing. We'll change the source maybe. All right, I did have to play around with this a little bit. The first time I initially went to play the music, it didn't work. I played with the volume, disconnected cords, tried to figure it out, turned the car back off, turned it on,
was able to get the radio to play, and so which is a really good sign that we do have radio. And then I was on to figuring out why this was not playing music off of my iPad. Found out that I guess it was the setting that it was on. It was just not on the correct like USB or aux setting to play my music, which is why nothing was happening. So I just went to adjust the settings on the back side here, and finally, if we do hit play, it's on the correct setting to play my music. So we'll hit play. And you can see we have music. And I can also switch over to my radio if I wanted as well, which we're not going to do. But finally, this does work. We can go ahead and start installing everything else back in the car and tidy it up. I'm not going to show you that because it's going to be quite a bit of stuff we have to put back together. I got everything all back together, and touchscreen is in here. We're good and ready to go. I didn't talk about the center home button really a whole lot. So I drilled this hole out here, and I actually picked up, this is like a basically just a rubber grommet cap cover piece. I picked these up on Amazon. It's just something that I can use pretty much as like a universal button. It's basically what it is. This is a 10mm in size, which is perfect for the center home screen button for any Apple product. And we have my hole here. It's a little bit on the curve, which isn't ideal. I should have probably did it a little bit over this way, but it's kind of just where the iPad aligned up in here. The only thing I'll need to do is put something on the back side of this so it can actually reach all the way down and touch that home button. But this cover piece seems to be pretty decent. I mean, it fits in here. I might glue it in place so that it stays a little bit better. But other than that, we are pretty much good with this install. I'll just go ahead and turn the key on real quick here again, make sure that everything works, and we can get both the radio and this should turn on automatically because it's charging in just a moment here. There we go. So now this has power. We can unlock it. As far as the centering on this right side is a little bit low, and the so it turned off real quick. Oh my, oh my, oh my. Oh my, oh my, oh my. Automatically is already playing music, which is a good sign. So we have the audio from this. It's perfect. So here we'll play another song. All right, all good to go there. Hit it again. So right now it's on FM radio. I know this channel. This is one of my preset channels that I had set for the vehicle. And to change the presets, again, it's just going to be on the left side, the other side. You can go through your presets with the up and the down over here.